Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hacking Education, the podcast to share new ideas to hack the educational system around the world. With deep thoughts and deep minds, we are here with two brilliant guys, engineers, people involved and engaged with the social impact. Mario Ramirez from Colombia and Mohamed from Senegal both want to share with us a conversation, thoughtful conversation about different projects and ideas about education. Hey guys, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having us here, man.
Thanks for having us, Alejandro.
Okay, guys. We have been talking a lot about the challenges in education. What happened right now with the system that we need to change. What is your ideas, my friend?
So I think it's a conversation that we have had for many years
Huh?
since we went together to school, and we have developed skills in the engineering field. And then both me and him are trying to find always ideas to not only help us,
Yeah.
but the world in general. So I think that one of the biggest challenges is okay, we were lucky enough to come from two different backgrounds or two different countries
Cultures, even
and cultures as
cultures,
well.
even. Yeah.
And then we were able to reach a level of education that is very unheard of or very scarce. So I think it's so important, and Mohammed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's so important that kids that have our similar backgrounds, our similar ancestors, and our similar families, our similar situations can have access to a level of education that we had or better. One of the things that we have discussed many times is that we feel that the kids in our schools or our friends or the
Mhm.
people that grew up together with us have a very similar level of skills. They may not have the same level of opportunity or the same family or the same luck, because many of what happened to me, at least, I attribute it to luck, to being very lucky. So one of the things that is important is I would love to figure out ways that kids that have those backgrounds start getting the same or better opportunities that you and me have. What do you think about that, man?
Absolutely. It's the best way to give back, right? Growing up, when we spend time in college, you know, we're classmates and always had that mindset. What about those kids that were brighter than me, right? It's like if I can make it this far, they could also make it this far, right?
Or
And
even farther, you know?
it was always a sense of I wish I could bring them with me because I know they could make it also.
Exactly.
And one of the
And
things that I was feeling is that okay, yeah, you can bringing them with us is kind of a very challenging situation, but bringing the education to them may be a simpler task today than 20, 40, or 60 years ago.
yeah, absolutely. That's the best way. Take back the knowledge so they can all have access to it and benefit from the knowledge that we acquire. Um, because let's be honest, they're limited, right? You in certain developing countries, you will see top talent getting wasted,
Totally, totally.
Do you
right?
Everywhere.
remember? Do you remember many years ago when we had the conversation about how to bring power? Because you and me talk, and in one of these conversations, it came about Alejandro
Hmm.
that Africa had a little bit of an issue with bringing power to rural
To
areas.
Birlias or to rural areas.
To
Okay.
rural areas. So you were the one that told me about that problem or opportunity. Do you remember that conversation, and why do you think there's still a problem today?
Oh, it's one of the main challenges that every government in Africa is currently experiencing. How to have access to the rural areas, have electrical access to rural areas is a
Hmm.
big challenge. You're talking about very high level grid. You have to have a stabilized grid, be able to push it all the way out.
Hmm.
Substation design substations, very expensive. Interconnected the grids, and it's just a difficult project.
Well, but when we
So
discussed that, it's like it's not only a difficult project, but in another one of the podcasts that I heard, they talk about how these problems have to be solved from the outside. how it's very hard, almost impossible, to solve this type of issue thinking from inside the country or even the continent itself because of the problem.
You
So
definitely need to know about the culture, right? In
That's
order
just
to solve the problem,
that's basics,
you need to
obvious.
know the
The
culture in
context,
order
the
to
culture.
have a solution based on their reality, right? Not something that you think will work. Because what will work theoretically is different than what you will go and experience in the field,
Totally. You need
right? So,
actually you need to
so
respect
right.
cultures. Yeah.
do you feel like you have learned the technical knowledge that is needed to address some of these issues, and then as well as having the background for those issues? I love the fact that you're saying that we need sort of both the technical aspect of it as well as the cultural aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the experience is, working, my background, working in nuclear systems, being a consultant and working on various design change packages that involves different engineers, right? Like you will have a structural engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer working together on a system-based solution, right? To solve different various problems in nuclear. And those gives you the ability to learn about how things work on another level, right? Like you get access to the electrical and the mechanical or the structural. You start with structural design packages and then you go learn about systems and how to design it. And that's where the knowledge in energy comes from, where you're able to provide tangible solutions to provide electricity to the rural areas. Go and perform thorough studies about the culture and how would you bring the energy on a technical aspect, right? Doing the site work, procurement, the engineering to connect it, and then also have that social aspect where you can communicate with the locals to understand in a pure sense their problem.
Yeah. I was thinking something because while I was hearing you, I was thinking in skills, and what kind of skills we need to have those, to face the challenges, because there are really big challenges around the world. So, when you think in the skills, you have I don't know, for example, top five or top three skills that you think is more important in the schools to enhance the students, in order to, because I was thinking, yeah, a mindset of solving problem, for example, or maybe critical thinking that we
Right,
were.
absolutely. You have to. That's what engineers, right? It's our ability to solve problem, technical problem, right? And it's the idea of having some critical thinking. Why is certain things happening, right? And with your technical background, the things you learn in mathematics, in physics, engineering, structural design classes, right?
Yeah.
How can you solve this problem, right?
Because one of the things that I remember is like, okay, man, yeah, I can figure out how I can help with my environmental background. Remember when we talk about site assessments? So Alejandro, one of the
Right.
things that is so important when you're doing any type of energy project is the the work that needs to be done prior to actually built and how this can impact entire societies. But the good and the best connection was found when hacking education came about because as soon as I mentioned hacking education to Mohammed, he say, "Man, the combination between power and education could be very powerful, and
Yeah.
it's good to be redundant there. Is that is such a crucial aspect that okay, yes, you need power, but the power is not for them to buy TVs or other refrigerators or other high consuming
Devices.
energy devices or gadgets. But one of the biggest things is we know of a company that has created some very low level
Low cost.
their low cost and their low level of consumption. So they consume very small amounts of energy while teaching kids how to learn reading, writing, and critical thinking. So the idea is okay, if we have yes, of course, a low cost, and then a low usage or power usage device that can be teaching these unrepresented communities. It could be a product and a project that could accelerate the education of these communities. Remember, Mohammed, you were telling me something about the youth in Africa. Can you remember that conversation? I don't have every
The
that
details,
yeah the details, but maybe you have them.
About the youth with
the
access
amount
to
of
education. Yes,
Empower
demographics.
too.
you have right. The average age in West Africa is below 18 years old.
18 years old
Right.
below. Wow.
It's
Wow.
very low. And you have kids growing up in rural areas with no access to school.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they have to walk miles
Yeah.
in order to get to the nearest schools. Right, that's something that you experience, you see. They completely disconnected from the world, right? And one of the main things, the solution aspect that's been provided is to figure out how to provide electrification in those areas, how to provide power to those areas.
Well, what
And then
challenge?
you think of the end terms is to facilitate their educations, keep them in line with the rest of the world, right? Give them access to life-saving ability, right? How you can do for yourself, how you can figure things out for yourself.
Totally like a one laptop per child. You mentioned the project.
Yeah, they want laptop for child, but this also ties tremendously good with empowering youth.
Yeah.
Remember, one of your podcasts was very, very cool about making sure that youth, in general, becomes entrepreneurial youth.
Yeah.
Okay, and the idea is for them to, I don't know how you say
Self
this, but
validation
not only
and
the
self
validation, but to live on their own,
on
to
their
be
own.
completely independent on the way they live, and not to be a burden on the government, but for them to have fantastic skills for them to be
Right.
independent,
Employable.
employable, and more than likely free. And it's not like it's a hard term, but it's really cool.
Yeah, but
After that conversation, Alejandro, I was like, I had an eureka moment, okay? And I thought about this hacking education after you told me, hey, man, education is one of the systems that hasn't been hacked. Every other system has been hacked, okay? And I want to have, I don't know, a small conversation about hacking education in a way that Blockbuster was hacked, that any library was hacked, and
Yeah.
that today any institution is hacked. Okay, using YouTube as a massive library of not only books but books and professors, or better, yeah, a mentor. So I
Yeah.
wanted to see if we can bring these words into these conversations. Mentoring is fantastic. A library that has a world of information is great. And for all the institutions that are brick and mortar, I want to make sure that they understand that it could be a transition where they become a different site, okay? And instead of being a site where you learn information, they be a site where you learn something different. There is no information.
Yeah. Like we have been talking about learn, for example, how we could strengthen our emotional intelligence, or to be more thoughtful, or have, for example, critical thinking, as you mentioned, or collaboration. Because the system, this educational system, is designed just for individuals. Your tasks, your homework, your notes, your code, but not for collaborate. And we need schools for collaboration, to have to actually, to train ourselves in mindfulness, to be more peaceful inside. Actually, you mentioned something really cool about your culture in Senegal, about music. How music could teach critical thinking and things. Could you give us a bit more about it?
oh, yeah. So very, very good aspect to learn about your culture. And something special about mine is information was passed through in the vocal way.
Yeah.
right? And we have uh, some individual we call griot that will sing about your ancestors. And
Grill.
griot, right?
It's the
And
kind of music, kind of songs, or
well, there is a music that's associated with it,
okay.
but it's really the traditional way of weddings, where someone will come and sing about your ancestors,
Uh
right?
huh.
Your parents, your great grandparents. This is where you come from. This is your traditions,
Yeah.
and a lot of time this is where you learn about your culture,
Uh huh.
the true roots of your culture. Sometimes they put it in a song way, right? Where you go and learn, and oh, this is what he meant. This is what our ancestors were talking about. This is the saying from your ancestors
Yeah.
to teach you these things. And later on, you will see the aspect that you learn in school correlate with those sayings,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I'll give a good example. In my language, there's a song where he talks about, I'll say the Wolof way, "Lu yëngu lu ko yëngal ko ëpp doole," right? It's like whatever's moved, whatever made it move is stronger. And when you look at it in the physics way, it's one of the law of momentum that you learn, right, in physics, and it's coming from our saying that used to talk about it, like this is it,
Wow.
but it's physics in a different form,
Maybe.
right?
Yeah. Amazing.
And that physics will be embedded in your brain forever due to that
Forever.
song.
Yeah.
Right.
The rhythm.
Due
You
to that
know.
song, when you put the two together.
Two things that are super cool about it. Obviously, I associated those songs with linguistics. A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
So it's obviously being used in other parts of the world. Bringing back the point that I was trying to make about schools, okay, and brick and mortar, is that through the new technologies, there should be a way that we build these virtual schools full of kids that don't have access, that don't have to walk 2 miles or 3 miles or 6 miles to go to school. In our country, in Colombia, we had the same situation.
Yeah. Same.
So many of our kids go to
Sadly.
school walking for miles
Yeah.
and hours. And so it's so interesting that both Senegal and Colombia share so many problems, but they don't share that many solutions.
Right.
So I am so excited about being able to connect both worlds because even though we share the same problems, and it's only the two continents and two countries and two cities that we are talking about, but I'm pretty sure that if it replicates in these two, it may replicate in other parts of the world. So the idea of creating these virtual schools without the need of funding to create a huge building of training all these educators and these subjects that they may feel that are completely unfamiliar with. So the idea of using a platform, okay, such as YouTube right now.
YouTube is a huge, massive university, like or a school, with the best content.
So based on the content of YouTube,
Uh-huh.
I will propose and challenge programmers and other engineers out there
This is a challenge for you guys, the hackers.
to develop a system, okay, using artificial intelligence or any other data that could curate YouTube content and develop learning paths for these unrepresented communities. So that could be a fantastic opportunity to actually use AI to hack an educational system that I feel needs to be changed or hacked.
That will be, like because a lot of institutions talk about personalized learning and things, but you're mentioning like the real singular learning path for each one of the students. Like with an algorithm, you can put some information about you or your hobbies or your interests, and that algorithm just mentioned like that. Curate the content from YouTube and give you the best teachers and information that platform have. That's the idea.
Yeah, Mohammed and I talked about Bitcoin and many of the other technologies. Remember when they were not even think, yeah, okay, and we then great. We did many investments in early crypto technologies, okay, and it's still up to today, crypto, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but it's still a promise, okay, is something that is there that can promise freedom, globalization, and many other things. But I are still yet to see the use of this. I feel the same thing is happening with artificial intelligence. So, me coming up with this sort of challenge, which then you can use some sort of crypto into it, can then generate a pretty good, massive education system, and it will completely bring a new win to education and children and our communities, then countries, then continents. What do you think about the comparison between the promise of crypto and now the promise of AI to solve the problem?
Yeah, if you're falling behind, you have to find tools that will help you jump and reach a level of, you know, independence, true independence in all aspects, right? Economical. So those are tools that are invented that you need to implement into your system in order to see where it will work. Okay, it needs to be thorough educations, right? Thorough intelligence behind it to push it and see how it will help bootstrap your economic impact, how it can influence you. Blockchains are good utilities. You can find different sectors in Africa, right? You can put it in all aspects, real estate, to document all your contracts. And you can use those systems to solve your solar grids, or you have an energy grid that you can use that is outdated and does not match you, providing more power that you can use. You can use those systems to provide a stability for your energy grid, right? And you mentioned Bitcoin, for example. You can use mining where you have your excess power that you're not using. You can put those containers and mine the Bitcoin with those excess energy, right? We have hydro dam. In when it's raining, right? You're providing more power than you needed, right? Because there's more. You can use those containers to use those excess power and turn it into monetary system. That's one of the solutions we discuss.
Like a solar coin or like this kind of.
No, Bitcoin mining. It's just you're using high power ASIC computers, application specific integrated circuit. So it's computers that are only designed to mine Bitcoin.
But
They
remember the
use a lot of power.
mining Bitcoin, because it can be monetized so easy, meaning you can sell Bitcoin really easy, um, is it's a solution to generate some sort of wealth or independence. But then there's another coin that he introduced me to. It's called helium, and then
Helium.
the system was mining connectivity. Okay, so that will be a pretty fantastic situation where you can mine, okay, while connecting through the internet these different people. So, like I said, this is just my interpretation of these technologies that are promising things, but they're yet to prove the use of this. I think that if we hack the education system, this
That's the point.
this could bring a lot of good things.
Because I was thinking, why is just a promise right now? Because I believe that because we need more talent to use those tools and create real solutions and more solutions. So I think hacking education, or through hacking education, you could find the right talent, engage students everywhere with those technologies, and who knows, find new solutions or new applications of those technologies to solve those problems. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the things that we also heard in a podcast of your podcast is that
This is a great podcast.
it's a great podcast. Yeah, we have to say it. It's really good too. It's like Mohammed is always your best fan, and he's always making sure that you know them.
But in Senegal, hey guys.
But then the idea here is and again, it's no something that could happen today. It's not something that could happen tomorrow. But the idea is, obviously, I can see that is a possibility, And it's not that easy, because if it was, then I would have already solved it. So it's just an idea, because every time that we talk about these promises, someone comes and then makes that promise a reality. Okay, and it's something that I want to see happening. I want to see happening. I feel that, and like I was saying in one of your podcasts, we talked about how these kids now could solve issues without some prior experience in a particular field. Okay, and the reason that I feel that's happening is because now those kids have information from all over the world. So as I thought in the beginning of this podcast, is that information as well as problems are very similar all throughout this developing world. Okay, so if they are similar, then that information can be used to solve very localized issues. And obviously, as the game of numbers, the more solutions presented, probably the better the solution will come about.
Totally. Totally.
If we get a bunch of kids, not only from Africa, but for the entire South American region, the Latam region, we had a great, fantastic conversation about how to create all these opportunities for these young kids that can bring, and all because they never been in the workforce, that they don't have solutions. No, you may be very
The
wrong.
problem is real. And you go to Africa, you see a lot of young talent with diplomas that cannot work. And you wonder, it's like, what is this system
Yeah.
that build them to this level and they're not able to work? There is a big disconnect in
This is
there.
a great discussion because, as you mentioned, both you mentioned that is we are facing new challenges. We never have this climate change, for example, or a lot of situations with AI or robotics and things, and the people is waiting for experience in challenge that we never have. This is
Right.
the discussion because you
Right.
mentioned we have a lot of talent, yeah, without experience, but full of inspiration,
Right.
ambition, and this is the moment for youth, for the youth talent to face and to guide us, into new other solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Man, we can bring a conversation over here, start a conversation about intelligence, okay, right now. And there's a humongous fear for how artificial intelligence is going to govern the world, okay? Now that we have artificial intelligence in security and marketing is a very dangerous situation of control. At the same time, talking with some of the people, we realized that there is an intelligence that could not be replicated. Artificial intelligence is still a generation or a generating solution based on prior data. And one of the things, and the most important thing, in my opinion, about intelligence is this capacity of building associations in the abstract world without prior knowledge. Okay, so is this like this association of solutions based on imaginary situations that have no past just yet, so,
Exactly.
so I love this idea of understanding artificial intelligence today. It's a fantastic wealth of information, generates a lot of content based on prior information, but there's still a need of this new world, these new opportunities, these abstract associations that have yet to be created. So I think that connecting these young kids, these small kids, and these also already trained professionals that don't have an opportunity in their local markets, connect them to teach and to develop new opportunities for worldwide spread problems is something that we need to consider.
Totally. I will add something else because, yeah, I love the idea to connect AI and those tools, but another AI is really important is ancient intelligence, ancient. And you mentioned that, because artificial intelligence, yeah, is a trend. It's a trending topic. It's a really hotspot right now. All the world is talking about that, but ancient intelligence. We have been talking about, how we could connect artificial intelligence with our ancient cultural heritage to create a new legacy, because we must. Yeah, I think we are in the middle of something, and we face in a different way, because it's not just technology. It's our backpack. How we
How
are
do you
here.
maintain the intelligence today and pass it on to the next generation?
Exactly.
That's important.
Alejandro introduced
Totally.
me to the concept. He told me one time in a conversation, Mario, ancestral intelligence and artificial intelligence both are AIs, and they are both very, very important. And then you bring the fact that people in Africa are singing ancestral intelligence and inheritance. Okay, in another one of your podcasts too, you discuss this huge gap between youth and older generations. So the communication between today's generation and 3 or 4 generations above them is very minimal. So those are fantastic opportunities to hack the educational system, to connect those type of generational um, breakpoints or distances, or to bridge those two. Just like we did with language, we did with many other things. Okay, so bridging those, closing those gaps, I think that'll be fantastic, and I think a great opportunity will be to bring the school virtually into kids and education communities that are requiring those.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important topic, right? And something to keep in mind because a lot of things are lost through translations and
Yeah.
through various aspects that you know, especially in the African aspect where it's passed orally, right? We all have those experiments in high school where you teacher say something, by the time it comes out is a totally different language. That's a problem with oral communication.
Yeah.
You have, and it's better to write it because it's there.
Totally.
So we have to learn to our past and collect that information, but also look at ways to optimize that and grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else I would love to add to this conversation is, and we need to have or to increase our intercultural skills, because we are talking, about two countries, two continents, even, talking about same challenges, but how we could communicate each other, because sometimes, yeah, you talk about, the people in Africa, the people in South America, but who are they?
Important.
Where is Senegal? Where is the culture or the music?
Right.
To be more aware, and to be more open to learn about new cultures and new music and new rhythms and things
Right.
is part of this new challenge in education. No, what do you
Yeah.
think about that?
Yeah.
Man, I can tell you that you mentioned it many times with me. We're very critical thinkers. Okay, we were trained, heavily trained in critical thinking, but we don't have some of the other skills. So the balance and the balancing of skills is something that can help tremendously. I mean, you talk about one laptop per child, a fantastic initiative, a fantastic project.
Yeah.
That project, based on some inside information, we know that the project was targeted to critical thinking. Okay, some people may think, oh yeah, if these kids get computers, it's because they're gonna be programmers for one of the big companies. Okay, but no, this is the process of critical thinking. So I love this other concept that you also taught me about mentor. Okay, and it's a story that I tell you this story because I love the story. Okay, and I may know tell it as good as you do, but anyway, in this case, I'm gonna tell the story. Okay, so Ulysses lives Ithaca, okay, and goes 20 years into an odyssey of different adventures. Okay, when he lives his 8-year-old kid. He lives it alone in Ithaca, okay, and talks to his best friend, mentor. And then he says, okay, take care of my kid. Teach him whatever I cannot teach him because I'm going to save the world.
Yeah.
Okay? He comes back 20 years later and he finds this big man, 28 years old. with all this wealth of information and knowledge, and says, thank you, mentor. So the idea is, it's a fantastic opportunity for me to say that 20 years after I left my country, I came back, and this is the beginning of this podcast and many other things that I love. And it's like, okay, who are we mentoring? Who can we mentor? And who were our mentors? Okay, this opportunity that we have right now to develop that concept into not only how to bring what do we bring back, but how we balance the critical thinking and these other things that you say that culturally, and not only you, but I feel like culturally are so important. The dance, all the other arts, and again, I'm not even well rounded in the knowledge of all these human needs, okay, and very well rounded on critical thinking and abstract math and any other concepts that we want to discuss over here about engineering. But when it comes to these other humanitarian subjects, I'm not well rounded. Do you feel that you are well rounded?
No, it's not how we were trained, right? And we spend so much time in the way we were built because we like the training took years. We think a certain way, and that's the difference between people succeeding in business and a highly intelligent people not succeeding in entrepreneurship, right? Because there's a lot of other aspect that comes into play, not the critical thinking, but the social aspect, social skills, right? Emotional intelligence, right? But also there is aspect that work against us in that field. As an engineer, right? You learn to calculate risk. And also you learn to identify what are the risks in different aspects. That works against you, right? Because sometimes it's preparations, right? It comes and you prepare the things and things work out themselves as you go along. If you think about all those risks, it sometimes like just push you back because you're thinking about the problem more, you're thinking about the solution. So different aspects you have to keep in mind. I'm saying these things because the last few years I've been transitioning from doing technical work to look into entrepreneurships, gain some other aspects, right? The social aspects, because we so much involved into being behind a computer, solving problems, that everything else, you might neglect it, right?
Exactly.
Thinking it's not important, but you have to retrain yourself to have the social aspect. Talk to people, right? Find opportunities, know where the
to people.
problems are in order to find solutions.
Sure, connection with the real world, with the people. You both mentioned that most of the time engineers are really smart guys and people with a lot of training in their brains and in intellectual training, but disconnect with the social aspect with the people there, and that's I don't know what you think, but for me is dangerous, no, because you could create solutions, but for no people, that
It's
it's
like, I
kind
mean, I want to go ahead and expand a little bit on that, Alejandro. Thank you for bringing that up. But I'm gonna I'm gonna say something because, as you guys know, I've been an engineer, but I also been an entrepreneur since day one. Okay,
total.
and then, man, I want this is from my heart to you. Okay, is that realization that I had, where as engineers we not only hack but we optimize. So the more you know, the smaller you think. Think about this: you have a computer, a TV, a radio, a book, and to a little phone. Okay, we always go in there. But if you think about socially, you go from one employee to two to three to a billion. So imagine the difference when you train your entrepreneurial skills, not through optimize a gadget, but to optimize the people, the concept of this expansion of your idea. So, and it's so cool that you bring that up because it's a realization that I also had through this podcast where, yes, we going, the more we learn, the smaller we think. And on the contrary, a wise man or a philosopher, the more he learns, the more people will impact because their ideas are very well founded, very well thought out, and very well prepared for a discussion. So I don't know if you capture all this information because it was a lot, but I'm thinking is engineers, experience, think small, arts, know a lot, impact a lot.
Yeah, totally, totally. Oh my God, I don't know. We are we are here hacking this educational system with a lot of ideas. Guys, something to add. We have an audience, of teachers and people who wants to give to share even new ideas for their students, families. Um, have a recommendation or you have a suggestion for them because they are, they want and they are open to learn with us here in Hacking Education. And please make some comments about this discussion because this is really important to create our community of hackers of education. Please, if you have suggestions or recommendation for our audience.
I mean, I can start if you want to. I don't know. I didn't educate myself. Somebody educated me, so I know that I don't have the tools to educate others. So one of the things that I would recommend is that you guys figure out what are the core and educational values and try to transfer those in a virtual way. Because I think virtual transferring of those will reach so many places that I feel are not like reached yet. Okay. So like I say, I don't know how it was done, and maybe you know, but I'm no an educator by trade. I know that there are people that have that experience, and I would love for them to be able to understand the core values of the education, meaning, critical thinking or arts and humanities and philosophies and psychologies and all these things that are required to be a balanced and fulfilling life, something like that. That's what I think should happen is for them to figure out how to bring those core concepts into a virtuality and then reach farther than their schools, their homes, and their countries even. That's what I think.
Oh, thank you, Mary.
Yeah, something definitely worth some thought, right? About how to optimize a system that we all know is outdated.
Yeah.
There is, like you said, there's experts in those domains, and we need to listen to them, right? To provide suggestions. But what we can say and what our solution can provide, new technology, new tools that exist, right? That will find where to optimize the level of intelligence the child seek. That is more centered around the child than a system, global system that is for everybody to follow, because everyone is different and intelligent in their own way. So the education needs to be more specific, with tools such as the laptops you mentioned,
Yeah.
with programmized YouTube, with with AI combined that can optimize those solutions in order to have a very specific and dedicated education for each child that is teaching. And I think that's where we need to focus, have a baseline for topics, but also where they can grow beyond and help them practice, use it in practice.
Man, you know what I like to add here? You know what happened to the NRC, So the commission that regulated reactors, okay,
Okay.
was created in US and then adopted by the entire world. Maybe you can elaborate on that. So the regulations for nuclear power are very, very
It's globalized.
globalized
Right.
based on an initiative in the US. Maybe education can jump into a coalition that can bring something like that up.
Yeah, we definitely in this now day and age with blockchain coming, Bitcoin, global monetary systems, right? With you see when one the whole world right now is going through inflations. It's not individual country basis. So the same way education needs to go around, because the kid in the village in Africa needs to be able to communicate with the one in America,
Totally.
right? Same way you see it, social media,
There in Colombia.
right? The education needs to catch up and match that level,
Totally.
right? So we can be all aligned with the same level of playing field. It's important.
You know one thing about learning and computers? I think that connectivity should come a little after as like a teacher, so a virtual or a gadget that can teach kids to prepare them to then communicate. So to the point of one laptop per child is to get to a certain level, so very soon connectivity can then be generated or created and then communication can happen, because I feel that collaboration is really cool when there is an understanding. So I don't know what you think about first the power, then the connectivity to both Africa and South America in general. What do you think about first the power and then the connectivity? Because many people are thinking no, they should have connectivity first to find information. That's what I don't know. What do you think?
Right. I mean,
A global villa. I was thinking in a global kind of classroom, even. Like while I was hearing you and you, Mohammed, what if we could have the best teachers there in Senegal, the best teacher there in Colombia, uh, talking with the students through platforms like this, and sharing ideas and sharing customs, and maybe we could do, yeah, a globalization of education as not as a standardization, because I don't think we must standardize the education. We must. This is my opinion. I'm not a teacher actually, but I'm a psychologist and I'm passionate for innovation in education, and I believe that we must respect the cultures, knowing them, but also collaboration is the way that we embrace the diversity and as a power. It's a really powerful tool to understand, yeah, we are different, yeah, it's not a problem to be different, but your skills and my skills together could really create new solutions for these new challenges. I think this is the way that we must understand how we could globally hack the education. This is my approach. What do
yeah,
you think, my friend?
yeah, that's the interconnectivity level, right?
Yeah, connectivity.
With having laptops, you get to talk
Yeah,
to your fellow classmates in a different continent, right? And now with the low energy cost, you can connect it easily to the grid by installing solar panels. I'll be able to charge it, right? And now you're providing an aspect of energy based solution, right? With the solar infrastructure and the new grid that you connected the village, and also the educational aspect through the use of low power, right? Computers, gadgets that kids can use to educate themselves and connect to different kids or connect to different professors in classrooms around the world, teach them different aspects, I think is a solution that will solve a big percentage, right, of the problem both our region are experiencing. Because you're hacking education and hacking the energy grid.
oh wow, wow.
One of the things that I wanted to add that I feel is important here, which the fear of control or the fear of controlling the education and then making everybody learn the same. You mentioned the term, and I cannot think about it right now, but you say centralization in a way.
Yeah.
That you don't want to make sure that standardized education.
Standardized.
That's the word. Okay. So I, based on some readings and some conversations with you, I I think that education is already based on some global concepts. So in reality, it's already standardized in certain concepts,
Principles of humanity.
principles.
Yeah.
So what I'm proposing, okay, is not to standardize or centralize, but it is that the principles can be shared and taught in a very similar way.
Yeah.
So the idea is to teach the principles of education really fast and everywhere. So that's kind of like the concept here is that it's not about centralization of education or teaching everybody the same or making them learn just a simple language or losing their cultural values. It's just okay. These global principles can be taught really fast and everywhere
Yeah.
because I think that more than standardizing is that it's giving the ability to learn these principles to all and every kid.
Totally. Okay, guys, I think we are done. This is kind of the conversation that we have here in the best podcast to hack education. Hacking education is giving a lot of information, but mostly thoughtful conversations with really smart people here to add new ways to understand the challenges and the solutions of education. Thank you. And please subscribe to this channel and comment because this is a community to hackers, hackers of education.